Before we start, I need to warn you, this isn't one of my usual stories. Last night, I opened my mailbox and found an email from a woman I've never spoken to. No name, no subject line. Just a single file attached and one sentence in the body. Please read this out loud. If it reaches enough people, maybe someone will understand what happened to me. I don't know where she is now. I don't even know if she's still alive. But I'm going to read you her story exactly the way she sent it. If this reaches you, it means the file got out. I don't know who will be listening to this, or how many times it will be copied, or what pieces of me will still be inside it by then. I only know I'm talking to my phone in a concrete box in the middle of the Utah desert, and something is listening with us. My name doesn't matter. I'm 34 from New York, and 3 days ago, I thought total isolation sounded like self-care instead of a warning. The listing was called Desert Glass Studio, Total Digital Detox. The photos were beautiful in that cold, minimal way. A single bed facing a wall of glass. The sky poured full of stars, no neighbors, no trees, nothing but sand and rock. It felt like the opposite of my life. No subway, no sirens, no notifications, just space. There was no address. Only coordinates. That should have bothered me more than it did. I booked 4 nights on impulse at 2 a.m, laptop on my knees, inbox still open behind the listing. I told my sister I'd be off-grid for a few days, like it was a brave, quirky experiment. The airport and rental car were familiar shapes. It wasn't until I passed the last town, just a gas station, a diner, a few sunken houses, that the world started to thin out. I stopped for gas because it felt like the last place on Earth where anyone would know my name if I vanished. Inside, the station smelled like burned coffee and dust. An old TV muttered weather in the corner. The man at the counter looked like he'd been standing there since the 70s. "Pump 2, I said. He glanced at my car, then at me. "You headed past town?" "Yeah, Airbnb out in the desert." I tried to sound casual. "Some kind of artist retreat. What road?" I showed him my phone. The coordinates glowed on the cracked screen. "That ain't a road," he said. "Google Maps thinks it is." He made a small sound that might have been a laugh. "Google thinks a lot of things." He handed back my card but didn't let go right away. "You out there alone?" he asked. "Yes." He studied me for a long second, then nodded like he'd lost an argument with himself. "If you see lights out there at night that ain't the stars," he said, "don't walk toward them, you hear?" I tried to joke. "That's a reassuring send-off." "Desert's funny," he went on, like he hadn't heard me. "When the noise is gone, it gets real interested in whatever's left. Sometimes that's no more than the inside of your own head." His gaze slid past me toward the door. "Out there, you don't always know which one you're listening to." I laughed it off in the moment. But the words stuck like grit between my teeth as I drove. The highway narrowed, then started to forget it was a highway at all. When the GPS told me to turn onto an unmarked dirt track, I did. The car lurched, dust boiled up behind me, and the line between road and not road blurred until I wasn't sure there had ever been one. "Arrived," my phone chirped at last. The house sat alone in the scrub, flat and low. A concrete thought dropped on the land. One whole wall was glass, staring at the horizon. Solar panels hunched on the roof. No trees, no fence, no neighbors. Just the box, the sky, and the idea that someone had put this here on purpose. And cameras, one on each outer corner, small black domes under the roofline, another above the door. As I pulled closer, the dark circles behind the glass shifted to follow the car. My phone buzzed. "Host, saw you pull in. Welcome. Keypad by the door. Code 1739. Place is very remote. Recommend staying inside after dark. Coyotes plus temp drops. Wi-Fi passwords on the table. Enjoy the stillness. The smiley face felt like a sticker on a body tag. I texted back anyway. Just got here. Looks amazing. Thanks. The air outside was so dry it felt sharp. No traffic, no planes, no hum of distant anything. Just wind moving over sand with a soft, endless shh. The camera above the door blinked once, one red heartbeat, when I keyed in the code. Inside, the house was every minimalist fantasy. Polished concrete floor, pale wood, a single white bed facing the glass wall, a kitchenette so clean it looked unused, a printed card on the table. Welcome. Doors lock automatically after 10 p.m. If you hear anything unusual outside, do not open the door. Desert plays tricks. Jay, cute, I said, just to hear a voice. The house swallowed it. I walked to the glass. From inside, the horizon looked so big it made my stomach tilt. The sky was already sliding toward gold, or the sun lowering itself like it was eager to leave me alone. Behind me, something beeped. A tiny, precise electronic chirp. Not the microwave, not the fridge. Short, then silence. Probably a sensor, I told myself. Smart house stuff. I unpacked slowly, feeling watched. In the concrete near the ceiling, I noticed small, perfect circles, like bubbles frozen in stone. One above the bed, one near the bathroom door, one in the corner of the living area. They might have been nothing. But when the beep came again, slightly higher this time, it seemed to bloom from the wall with the closest little circle. I turned on all the lights for no good reason. Made tea I didn't really want. Walked the perimeter of the room twice, pretending to check outlets. When the sun finally dropped, the dark rushed in like water. The stars were wrong. In the city, you get a handful, faint and vague. Here they were crowded, sharp, almost aggressive. The Milky Way was a smear of light so bright it made my eyes water. I pressed my forehead against the glass. The desert fell away in all directions. No landmarks, no comfort, just texture and shadow. Okay, I whispered. Okay, that's beautiful. For one long moment, the fear loosened its grip. Then, at the far edge of the land, something blinked. A single orange-white point, low to the ground. On, off, on, off. A car, I thought, a ranch house, a distant tower. Anything ordinary. The light blinked again. Steady, patient. A question. My phone vibrated in my hand. No bars, no Wi-Fi icon. Still, a message slid onto the screen from a contact with no number, no name. Just one corrupted string. Do not look back at that light. By the time my eyes jerked up from the screen, the horizon was empty again. Just stars. And the thick black between them that suddenly felt too interested in me. I woke with my phone still in my hand and the taste of dust on my tongue. For a few seconds, I didn't know where I was. My brain reached for subway noise, for the buzz of my upstairs neighbor's TV, for the low rumble of the city. All it found was wind, rubbing itself against concrete. The desert outside the glass looked flat and polite in the pale morning, harmless. Most bad dreams do, in daylight. I checked my phone. No service. Wi-Fi. One shaky bar. 3 messages waited from the nameless contact. Time stamped a little after 3 a.m. You fell asleep. It stood at the glass for 7 minutes, 19 seconds. You didn't see it. That's good. A 4th line appeared as I watched. It knows you now. My throat went dry. Who is this? I typed, how are you even texting me? I don't have service. Dots pulsed, vanished, returned. Someone who stayed longer than they should have. Are you the host? I wrote, because if this is some kind of joke, if he's texting you, it's for him. I'm texting you for you. I caught myself glancing toward the corners of the ceiling. as if a speaker would be there, as if a mouth might open in the concrete. The beeping came again, one neat chirp from above the bed. I stepped onto the mattress to get closer. The round imperfection in the concrete had a dark center, glassy and deep. My skin crawled. "Motion sensor," I muttered. "That's all." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jay. "All good in there? Saw you walking around last night. First night's always rough. You get some sleep? Saw you walking around." I looked at the tiny dark eye in the ceiling. "Do you have cameras inside the house?" I typed. His reply took longer this time. "Just motion sensors. No video, no audio. Remote place. Better safe than sorry. If they bother you, I can disable them. Would recommend leaving them on though." As if on cue, another message slid in from the unknown contact. If he turns them off, it pays more attention. For a moment, I let myself be stupidly grateful to Jay because he was solid, at least. Host, property, liability. Something that could be reported if this all got too weird. "I'm a little freaked out," I wrote to him. "The sensors feel invasive. Totally understand. Disabling interior sensors now. Outside, stay on for your safety. Animals, people, etc. Also, if you get any weird messages, ignore them. Some local folks like to mess with guests. They can't get to you. You're safe inside. You're safe inside." The words lay on the screen like something heavy. The unknown thread lit up again. He said the same thing to me. The day tried to be normal and almost succeeded. I made coffee. I read a few pages of one of the 3 books on the shelf and retained none of it. I walked circles around the house, both inside and out. That's when I saw the prints. At the back wall, where the glass ended and solid concrete began, the sand was marked by 2 long ovals side by side, darker than the dust around them. Not deep, not crisp. More like shadows burned into the ground. They stopped right at the base of the glass. If you lined them up with the bed inside, they corresponded to where a person would stand to watch someone sleep. I knelt and touched the marks. The ground there was colder. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Don't follow them," the unknown contact wrote. I spun in a quick circle, scanning the empty desert. "Where are you?" I asked the air. No one answered. Back inside, I tried video calling my sister. The Wi-Fi held just enough to connect the call. Then my screen fractured into blocks of color. Her face became a smear, mouth opening and closing on static. Her voice arrived chopped and stretched, syllables out of order. "You. Okay, here. You." Over her broken words, a second sound crept in, a layered murmur, like several recordings playing at once. I thought, absurdly, of a choir clearing its throat. I hung up. On the second attempt, the screen stayed black, but I felt watched, like there was someone on the other end, close enough to fog the lens, but not interested in saying hello. "The Wi-Fi is crap," I told myself. That's all. My phone chimed with a new notification I hadn't seen before. "Unknown device connected. Audio input active." I tapped it. Nothing opened. The message simply vanished. As the sun sagged toward evening again, the house started to feel less like shelter and more like a display case. I messaged Jay might leave a day early. I wrote, thinking 3 nights instead of 4. "It's more intense than I expected." "No worries," he replied. "I'll adjust checkout notes. Tonight should be especially clear. Great, stars." I didn't answer. Darkness came faster the second night, like the desert had decided there was no point in taking its time. I turned off the inside lights, but I didn't go to the glass. I sat on the bed with my back to it, knees pulled up, phone in my hands like a lucky coin. For an hour, maybe more, there was only wind and the occasional tick of cooling metal. Then the power went out. The hums died. The fridge quieted. The router winked off. The house exhaled everything electric in one long sigh. The dark changed shape. It was no longer a thing outside the glass. It was in the room with me. I held my breath. Somewhere in all that black, something stepped onto gravel. One step. Pause. Another. Slow, heavy, unhurried. Each crunch of sand came from a different side of the house, as if it were circling, reacquainting itself with the geometry. The footsteps stopped behind my head on the other side of the window. A long moment passed. Then a fingernail, or something like one, tapped the glass. Once, twice, a slow pattern. My phone lit my hands. "Are you awake?" the unknown contact asked. "Yes." My thumbs shook. "What does it want?" Dots appeared. Company. New voices. "It gets bored?" I clamped my jaw shut so hard my teeth hurt. The tapping on the glass moved, like someone tracing my outline through the wall. Down to where my shoulder would be. Up to where my head was. Lower, to the level of my hands clutching the phone. The urge to speak. The animal instinct to call out, to announce I was here, human, not prey, rose like a scream pressed flat. I bit my tongue and tasted iron. After a while, the footsteps moved away. Not far, just enough to let me imagine they'd lost interest, while every cell in my body knew they hadn't. The power returned sometime before dawn with a small click, like a switch being reset in a distant room. The fridge hummed, grateful. The router blinked awake. My phone buzzed. "It knows you're leaving tomorrow," the unknown contact wrote. "It likes deadlines." I decided to leave at first light. No shower, no breakfast. I shoved my clothes into my bag in frantic folds, ignoring the neat laminated checkout card on the table. I would apologize to Jay later. I would say it was too quiet, too strange, too much. I would make it small so I wouldn't sound crazy. Outside, the world was still gray, shapes without shadows. The desert looked like it had been erased and redrawn in pencil. The cameras above the door sat motionless, blind or pretending to be. You'd think the scary part would be the night, but morning has its own cruelty. It lets you see exactly how empty everything really is. As I reached for the door, my phone buzzed. Heading out early, Jay asked. I stared at the message for too long. "Yes," I wrote. "Have to get back sooner than planned." His reply came almost immediately. "Shame. House usually does its best work on the last night." My fingers went numb around the phone. "What does that mean?" I sent. No answer. The lock turned easily now. The metal was suddenly cooperative. The desert air felt almost gentle as it slid around my face. On the inside of the door, just below the handle, someone had scratched words into the paint. I hadn't noticed them before. "Don't listen." The letters were shallow but frantic, as if done quickly, with something dull. A key. A coin. Fingernails. My hand shook on the handle. I opened the door anyway. The cold hit first. Night still clinging to the ground. Then the silence. Thick as wool. My car waited where I'd left it, patient and stupid. I didn't look back at the house. Only when I was in the driver's seat, doors shut, did I let myself breathe. My hands left damp prints on the steering wheel. The engine started on the first try. I pulled away, tires sliding a little in the sand, then catching. The house shrank in the rear view. Box, camera, eyes, the big glass wall staring after me. My phone lay on the passenger seat. A new notification slid onto the lock screen. New audio file saved. desert_studio.m4a. I hadn't recorded anything. My thumb hovered, then betrayed me. I tapped it. Static filled the car, soft as cloth. Then my own voice spoke through the speakers. If this reaches you, it means the file got out. For a second, I thought it was playing back this moment. Me now, me talking to myself. But the recording went on, describing things I hadn't said aloud into any device. The booking at 2 a.m., the gas station man's exact words, the way the cameras had moved. It followed my thoughts like footsteps half a pace behind. I killed the audio, heart hammering. The file closed. Another opened itself. track_002.m4a. This time there was no static, just breathing. Mine, if I believed the timing. Then, layered over it, another breath, slightly out of sync. Say something again, a voice said. It was my voice, but wrong in the little ways that make things unbearable. The pitch was a fraction lower. The rhythm was almost right, like an echo that had practiced. I stopped the car in the middle of the empty dirt track. The engine idled unevenly. The desert around me held its breath. On my phone, the message thread with the unknown contact popped up on its own, as if I'd been the one to open it. A new line appeared, letter by letter. It doesn't have to keep you there. It just has to get inside. I looked back the way I'd come. From here, the house was almost invisible, just a darker smudge against the land. The sky above it was clean, innocent blue. Forward was the way back to the highway, to the gas station, to towns with boring crimes and noisy neighbors. Behind was a box full of sensors and something that wanted new sounds to wear. Inside the car, my own voice played faintly. Inside the car, my own voice played faintly. It said, I hadn't hit play. The recording went on. Forward was the way back to the highway, it murmured, to the gas station, to towns with boring crimes and noisy neighbors. Every word matched the thought I was having half a heartbeat later. Not predicting, not exactly, riding alongside. I dropped the phone. It fell between the seat and the console, voice muffled, but still talking. Dropped the phone between the seat and the console, it said from the floor. Off in the corner of my vision above the scrubland, air shimmered. Heat, I thought. Morning warming the ground. A mirage. Except the shimmer kept pace with the car when I rolled forward. When I braked, it drifted closer, like something struggling to understand distance. It was taller now. Narrow, vertical, a column of wrongness against the sky. The phone on the floor crackled. All it needs is a thin line, my voice said from below. A cable, a wire, a bit of signal, a story someone decides to share. I turned the ignition off. Silence slammed down. No engine, no fan, just my heartbeat and a far-off hiss of wind. The shimmer didn't disappear. It just stood there, patiently erasing whatever was directly behind it in my view, like a new cursor on an empty document. The message thread lit up again. No dots this time. No pretense of someone typing. If you post this, don't put the coordinates. It doesn't need help finding more. The words sat on the screen. My fingers moved without permission. What happened to you? I wrote. For a second, nothing. The shimmer flickered. Then, I used to be a voice in a house, it wrote. Now, I'm a house in a voice. The car suddenly felt too small. I opened the door and stumbled out, sucking in air that tasted like dry stone. The desert took my footsteps and kept them. Behind me, the phone kept talking in my own voice to an empty car. If you're hearing this, it means I sent the file, it said. Or it means it sent itself. One more line arrived on my screen, choosing its words like it had all the time in the world. You can leave the car, the phone, the story, but you've already heard it. That's enough. There are different kinds of endings. There's the kind where you say, I drove away, I never looked back, and I was fine. And everyone decides to believe you. There's the kind where the recording cuts out mid-sentence and someone else uploads what they think happened next. And there's this one, standing in a silent piece of desert with a choice that doesn't feel like a choice at all. Go on with a voice in my pocket that is learning me by heart, or go back to a box of concrete and glass that already knows how I sound when I sleep. I don't know yet which one I chose. By the time you hear this, that part will have already happened. It will be fixed somewhere, on a server, in a file, inside some machine that hums in the dark like the inside of a wall. What matters for you is this. If you find a listing that sounds like this place, no address, just coordinates, too cheap for how pretty it looks, too eager to be alone with you, don't book it, because this feels like a story, and stories aren't real. Stories are exactly how things like this move, in text, in sound, in the small spaces you open when you decide to listen. So if, after this, something inside your phone starts echoing you a little too perfectly, if your own voice leaves you messages you don't remember recording, if you ever wake up to a notification that says audio input active when you're sure you were asleep, ask yourself one question. How many times has this file been played before it reached you? And how sure are you that the voice you're listening to right now is still only mine? I don't know how long I stood in that desert. Minutes, maybe, or an hour. The sun kept rising, but it felt distant, like a weak lamp in a very large room. The air around me stayed cold, even as the sky brightened, like the night wasn't finished with me yet. I kept telling myself to walk, to get back in the car, to drive until the tank ran dry, and then keep walking until someone found me. But every time I tried to move, it was like a thin thread pulled behind my ribs, tugging me gently backward toward the house, like something didn't want me to leave, like something had already followed me out here. When I finally turned toward the car, the phone on the ground vibrated again. I froze. It wasn't a normal buzz. It was softer, almost shy, like it was testing how close it was allowed to get. The screen lit up by itself. Don't walk away yet. It's still listening. I nearly kicked the phone away. But some part of me, some small, terrified instinct, knew that ignoring it might be worse. That maybe the attention was the only thing keeping the shape and the shimmer from coming closer. So, I crouched and picked it up with two shaking fingers, like it might bite. Another line appeared. Turn around slowly. Don't blink. I don't know why I obeyed. Maybe because obeying meant acknowledging it was real, and acknowledging it meant I wasn't insane. Or maybe because something in the air shifted. A drop in pressure, a silence inside the silence, that told me it was already behind me. I turned. The house was gone. Or rather, the house wasn't visible anymore. The desert shimmer wasn't vertical now. It had spread horizontally, swallowing the outline of the building in a soft, vibrating blur, like heat rising off metal. The cameras, the solar panels, the glass wall, all melted into the air. The only thing left was the doorway, just the rectangular frame of the front door, floating alone in the landscape like a photograph cut out of its background. My suitcase was still by the threshold, exactly where I dropped it. Something moved inside the doorway. A dark shape, human height, but stretched just slightly wrong, like a shadow on the wrong time of day. My phone rattled in my palm. It's calling you. That's how it works. It offered me the same thing. The last line came slow, almost apologetic. Don't answer. But the shape inside the frame began to tilt, like a head bending at an unnatural angle, listening for a reply. The desert wind brushed the back of my neck, but the doorway stayed perfectly still, as if sealed from the world I was in. Something about that stillness hurt to look at. A pressure built in my ears. My vision swam. The shape leaned a fraction closer. I backed away from the phone, from the car, from everything. I don't remember deciding to run. I only remember the feeling of my feet hitting the sand and the sense that the air behind me folded inward, like something taking a breath big enough to pull the world inside out. I don't know what happened after that. When I try to remember, it feels like touching a hot stove. You don't get an image. You just get instinct, a pull, a warning. But I do know one thing. If you're hearing this, it means the file kept going. It means the story traveled farther than I did. And if the story traveled this far, then so did it.